little ones, the Sleep Manual Podcast.
Welcome back to our podcast. I'm Amanda and I'm here with Nikki.
Hi.
We are pediatric sleep consultants and the founders of Little Ones. At Little Ones, we help families around the world with their baby and toddler's sleep. So if you need a hand, visit us at www.little-ones.co and we would love to guide you through your current sleep challenges. On our podcast today, we are solving your little one's bedtime battles.
Yes, we are. Bedtime can be a very stressful time for many parents, where their babies or toddlers are fluffing around, crying, not sleeping. This can happen for so many reasons. Today, we're going to talk you through these reasons and what you can do about it.
Reason number one, your baby or toddler isn't ready for sleep yet. And I think this is probably a really underrated reason, I would say. They've potentially napped too much during the day, or maybe you just haven't realized, but their awake windows are a little bit too short, which has then resulted in too much total day sleep, or their last nap of the day. This is a crucial one as well. Just having that last nap of the day too close to bedtime or too long can mean that your baby just isn't ready for sleep.
And that last nap of the day can also be the only nap of the day if they're a toddler and they're just down to one daytime sleep. So let's go right back to the start of this, Amanda, and talk about undertiredness, which is what we call it. So they're not ready for sleep. We generally have a sleep formula, which is, I suppose, how we would refer to it, where our goal is to get excellent nighttime sleep, and the way we achieve that is through having a bit more control over what happens in our baby or toddler's days. So with their naps and their awake windows, because we know that what's happening in the day is 100% affecting what's happening in the night. If we're talking about a little one struggling at bedtime, what we're probably looking at really is that, and this would be the case for a baby or a toddler, is that they're crying, they're upset, you cannot get them to sleep. So it could be in a newborn baby, it looks like the witching hour. Like I remember with my eldest when I knew nothing. As a newborn, we couldn't get her to sleep till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I was thinking, this is not right, surely. Babies are supposed to go to bed earlier than this. And that can continue. That doesn't just have to be applicable to newborns. So if your little one is fighting sleep like that, they're just not going to sleep. That's what we are talking about when we talk about bedtime battles. So can you give us an example of what napping too much in the day might be, Amanda?
Yeah, for a newborn, say, they would have really short awake windows. They wouldn't be awake for very long. Maybe they'd be awake for 45 minutes, but yet they were 5-6 weeks old at this point now. If they're only awake for 45 minutes, then that means that they're then going back to sleep and then sleeping for a long chunk, even if it is an hour and a half or 2 hours, but they're doing that multiple times a day. When you add up all of those naps, will add up to a lot of day sleep. So that's what a newborn too much napping would look like. For a toddler, say, it's a bit easier. With a toddler, you would see, or maybe they're just ready to drop a nap. It might be that they are fighting going to sleep, but they're still having a nap. But then, of course, that's pushing out bedtime. So I think when they've napped too much during the day, newborns, it's not as easy to know, because they will just fight you, and they will fight you in a way that looks like so many other things. Like, it might look like they're hungry. It might look like they're overtired.
Or colic or reflux.
Or colic or witching hour or whatever.
Yeah. Or my baby hates being swaddled.
Oh, yeah.
No, your baby's just fighting sleep, not the swaddle.
They're fighting sleep because they actually just don't need it. In toddlers and older babies, it is a bit more obvious, a little bit, but some people can still miss the signs that when they are fighting the sleep, they will look like they're fighting you like a bedtime battle. They're fluffing around. They're coming and asking you ridiculous questions. Or maybe they're actually pushing out that bedtime a little bit to calibrate their sleep. but maybe they're waking earlier in the morning, say, and that then has meant that they still need the nap. And then when they're having the nap, it's actually just a vicious cycle. And that nap is causing the bedtime battle and the early morning waking and all of those sorts of things. So having that control of the daytime sleep and making sure that your baby or toddler is perfectly ready for sleep, it's just the key to give you the knowledge and the power to understand what is actually happening.
So if you think that your little one is having too many naps during the day or too many nap hours or not enough awake time, the best place that you can start is educating yourself on what the awake time should be. And we've got a lot of information on that on our website, also inside our app. And then to be honest, it's actually just you being in control of your little one's naps a bit more. So it might mean you have to wake them. It probably will mean you have to wake them from their naps if they're at risk of oversleeping. But it's the lesser evil than them fluffing around and extending bedtime because they're not tired enough. That's not their fault. They're not being naughty.
No.
They're just not tired enough to go to sleep.
I think as parents, we just assume that babies will wake up when they're not tired, or that they won't
sleep.
When they won't sleep if they've had enough sleep. My oldest was the biggest daytime sleeper. She actually just loved sleeping in general, but what she would do is she would just sleep all day, and then it wasn't until for about a week. Oh no, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks that she would just wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and just lie there silently. She wouldn't cry out, but she would just lie there silently for an hour or two. And as she wasn't crying, it was okay to leave her, but I just couldn't figure out what was going on with her. But it was just that she was sleeping easily an hour, sometimes 2 hours, too much during the day, and then causing that nighttime waking. She didn't have the bedtime battles because she would just go to sleep. She
just wanted to go to sleep.
She would just go to sleep, So having that control during the day will just give you the knowledge and power to
And certainly if your little one is approaching a nap transition, as Amanda touched on earlier, which is generally around 6 months old, they start losing that late afternoon sleep.
Yep.
And that actually is a very common one for fluffing around at bedtime, because that late afternoon sleep historically happens just a couple hours before bedtime anyway. And if your baby is 6 months old and is still having a sleep at that time, chances are they're now not going to sleep at bedtime. And that is a big sign that they're ready to drop that nap. We do have another podcast all about dropping that nap if you're interested in listening to how nap transitions work. So let's move on to the exact opposite of this. And that is that your baby is overtired, because horrifically, undertired and overtired looks pretty much the same.
Oh, it's so confusing. When your baby is overtired, this is when they haven't napped enough, or the opposite of the too short awake periods, they've had too long awake periods in between their naps. This is obviously also caused then not enough sleep time through the day. Sometimes they may have needed a late afternoon nap, but they didn't have one, or maybe it just got too late in the day and you just pushed through and didn't have a nap when they really needed it, or they might have been going through a regression and you thought that they didn't need a nap. This is a big one around 5 months, 4 or 5 months especially. It can look like they don't really want to have that late afternoon nap, but they really do need it. They really need it. It's the same thing around 18 months, when people often confuse the 18-month regression for actually dropping the nap. But realistically, that nap needs to stay a good
another 18 months
and potentially another year at least.
Yeah.
So overtiredness can look like they are fighting you so much, the same as undertiredness. And
the difference is that they're probably also going to be very cranky, whereas an undertired baby or toddler, especially toddler, is just going to be
happy.
Isn't going to be cranky. They're going to be happy. They're going to be frustratingly happy. They're just going to want to play. And an undertired older baby is going to be standing in their crib, and they're going to be doing all their tricks and blowing raspberries and things like that. They're not going to be cranky. They will potentially get cranky
They'll
if
get cranky when you put them into bed or when
they know they don't
they
want to go
know.
to bed. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But an overtired one is going to be very upset probably before you even start getting them ready for bed. They're going to be grouchy. Although in saying that, a lot of toddlers at this point, and this trips a lot of people up, a lot of toddlers who are overtired get a second wind. And
Yep.
that is because when you're overtired, you have a rise in your cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. And that can work like adrenaline in your little one's body, and suddenly they get the second wind. So you might be almost at a time where you'd be able to put them down for an early bedtime. And I've seen my own children do this. Even my 7-year-old still sometimes does this. And you're thinking, oh, you are so tired. You definitely have to go to bed early tonight. And then they are able to push through that.
Yeah.
And they get the second wind. And then they're crazy. They're like sprinting round. They're manic. And you think, oh, okay, you weren't that tired after all. Unfortunately, my friend, you are beyond the point of no return.
Beyond. So beyond.
Welcome to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh my
that is
gosh.
a sign of being very overtired, and you're going to have to pull out all the stops in that situation to get your little one to actually go to sleep. So there's no cure for overtiredness, but there is prevention of overtiredness. So if you suspect that your little one's bedtime battles are because they're overtired, you actually have to start the next day at trying to prevent the overtiredness. And as Amanda said, that would be being done by shortening the awake windows, trying to encourage them to have longer, more consolidated naps, just really making sure that their daytime structure is really age appropriate and that they have enough chances for naps and for rest during the day.
And I think if you end up in that overtired bedtime battle situation, especially with toddlers, this is where you can get really tricked into other sleep associations. It can be a week of them fighting you, and then all of a sudden you're in their room going to sleep in their bed with them every night, and that's then their new sleep association. And then they of course want that every night, or you've somehow ended up letting them have 10,000 drinks and needing to go to the toilet, or all of those things. So really quickly can overtiredness and then having to help them settle to sleep can cause into different sleep
types of
associations.
battles. Yeah,
different types of battles. And then of course you're then having to deal with the overtiredness plus also this new sleep association that you've managed to wind into the sleep routine. So let's move on to reason number 3. Which is when the bedtime is actually too late. People are often really scared of having an early bedtime, but it can be really
going to bed early.
it can be really beneficial, especially if your little one is overtired. Even my own 7-year-old, same age as Nikki's little one, the other day, she was like, "Oh, Dad, I just don't get to have a sleep in. I just don't, with all of these things, all these after school activities and all of this, and we're going out for dinner, and I think it was my sister's birthday, and we were going out, but I just don't get to have a sleep in." What she actually meant was not a sleep in, because we were like, but you don't sleep in. You don't sleep past 7 in the morning. You never have. You just... This child particularly it's an impossible task for her to sleep in. But what she actually meant was she wanted to have an early night. And so she was like, I don't get to catch up. I don't get to have a sleep in. And we were like, do you mean an early night? And she's like, yes, Dad. Yes, I want to have an early night.
Cute. That's cute.
Just having that early night.
Actually, that's cute because Cha, my little one, we actually are trying to, well, not on purpose, but sometimes we try and push her out a little bit later, towards 7:30 actually, because she's still, and yet it'll get to 5 to 7, and she goes, "Can I go to bed now?" And I'm like, "Oh, I was thinking maybe we could have stretched you a bit longer tonight," but no, her body clock is so regulated, that she's just, this is bedtime. My body's tired. I want to go to sleep.
7:30 for a 7-year-old is still a good bedtime to have.
Yeah.
Like, it's not too early. And the other day I put my 7-year-old, she was just so tired. She usually will go to bed now at about 7:30 because I've got an older one and we do stories. But I put Mackenzie to bed the other day at 6:30 and she was just straight out. So even for a baby who's had a
Yeah.
bad day of naps or a bad
Before.
afternoon, hasn't had an afternoon nap, or the naps are just crap for the day.
Or a
It's
toddler who's
okay.
had a busy day at preschool
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
It's okay to put them to bed at 6 o'clock. It's okay. They will still sleep until the morning. It's okay.
And contrary to popular belief, it doesn't mean they're going to wake up even earlier the next morning. In actual fact, if you're putting your little one to bed too late and they're going to bed overtired, they are definitely going to wake up early in the morning. It doesn't work the other way around. So if they're going to bed tired but not overtired, they're probably going to still sleep through until their normal wake up time. It's not creating, unless it's something ridiculous, like you're putting them to bed at 4:30 in the afternoon for the night. But other than that, you're not going to create an early wake with an early bedtime.
And we know this from our older children as well, because on days when they do go to bed at 8:30, or you've gone to a movie or something and they've gone to bed later, 9 times out of 10, my 7-year-old will then wake at 5:30 the next day.
They'll wake earlier than her
usual bedtime because she is just so overtired.
And then it's horrific and you pay for it for the whole next day.
And then I make her have a nap.
Yeah. So don't be scared of an early bedtime. And during these nap transition times that we've talked about before, which is around 6 months, and then again, when you're dropping down to 1 nap a day around 12, 15 months, and then again at around 3 years when they lose the naps altogether, that is when you definitely bring bedtime forward, because your little one is losing some sleep. They are going to be tired while they're catching up. So you have to give them that chance to recalibrate. And if you get this bedtime stuff right now, honestly, look at our children. They will have awesome bedtimes throughout their entire childhood. My 12-year-old still goes to bed at 8:30, and she keeps saying to me, "Can I go to bed at 9?" And I'm like, "But you go to bed at 8:30 and you fall asleep straight away and you don't wake up until 7 the next morning." So that tells me that you need to be going to bed at 8:30 because you're falling asleep immediately. If she was lying in bed awake for an hour or 45 minutes, I'd stretch her bedtime out. But the earlier the bedtime, the better their chances of a good night's sleep. Yeah. So let's move on to reason number 4 that you are having these bedtime challenges with your little one, and that is that their sleep environment is off. So something is not working in there to assist them at bedtime. And their sleep environment could be their own room if they're a bit older, or it can be your room if they're still sleeping in your room as a young baby. So just whatever room they are sleeping in.
Some people in some countries are recommended to sleep in like the lounge or whatever, or the room that you're in. I take that as the room that you're in at nighttime. I don't think
the sleep environment.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not their own specific room necessarily.
Yeah.
So the thing about the sleep environment is it actually has a really huge impact on your little ones settling in their sleep. And obviously, the older your baby and your toddler gets, the more aware they are of their surroundings. And so they're going to start to notice if there are things in their sleep environment, like toys and stimulating musical mobiles. Don't get a musical mobile, or get one and use it above the change table during the day. Don't use it at night when you're trying to get. Why would they go to sleep if they could look at some bright, colourful, noisy musical mobile? That's crazy. So you want to have this dark, calming, like zen sleep area. Nothing stimulating. Don't let your toddler see anything fun in their sleep environment, because it's all over.
Those people who have those play toys in the crib.
No,
on the side,
like sensory
on the
toys or something.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Because they're only going to touch it. And if they're touching it, they're not sleeping.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you
So
want to talk about how crucial the dark is, Amanda, in terms of bedtime?
yeah, the dark is obviously right back to when we were cave people. The dark is the number one sleep indicator that it is
Hmm.
sleeping time. So having a dark room is crucial. We obviously now have things like power, which can extend the dark and lights. But
Hmm.
if you think about the physiological reason for sleep, you need the dark. Having a dark room, having the blackout blinds, or at least a temporary blackout solution on windows. Or I even know some friends that have 3 children that didn't have a spare bedroom, so their baby slept in one of their closets. It didn't have windows, which
I bet
was
it slept
fantastic.
amazing. Yeah.
He does, yeah.
My friend's 4 5-month-old baby sleeps in her, she's a chiropractor, sleeps in her clinic, one of the rooms in her clinic during the day. And it's an internal room. So it's
Oh,
completely
yeah,
dark. And he sleeps,
perfect.
she says, oh, he sleeps so much better at the clinic. I'm like, yeah, because the room is pitch black, whereas his room at home isn't
It's
as
not.
dark. It's amazing how much difference.
Yeah,
But when you can look at it like that, it's so obvious the difference it makes.
so obvious. Yeah,
The
so
other reason
sleeping in the
actually
dark.
we would recommend a dark room for bedtime is because a lot of countries, and ours included, we're down here in New Zealand, have over the summer we have daylight savings, and so
Mm.
it doesn't actually get dark for us until about 9 o'clock at night in those
Well,
summer
in the
months.
South
And
Island, it doesn't get dark
well,
until
yeah,
11.
and
11
also
at
in a lot
night.
of countries in the tippy top of the world as well, where they have a lot of daylight right through the night. And if you're trying to put your little one to sleep at seven
It's a
o'clock and it's
nightmare.
literally the sun is still bright outside, they're not going to go to sleep because
No,
their bodies are not telling them that it's time for sleep. So having blackout options for your little one's room is so crucial.
so crucial. And of course, we also know that melatonin is only produced in the dark, and that is the hormone released by your body to help you sleep and
Hmm.
stay asleep until the next day. So we need that melatonin to start to be produced, and it's only happening in the dark. So having all of the lights on or having a bright room, it's just not going to work. So
And you're just
having that
fighting,
dark,
you're actually working against your little one's
your own body.
circadian rhythm. So
Yeah.
make it easy on yourself.
And white noise, that is, we
Mm.
harp on about white noise, but it is honestly just the easiest thing to
Hmm.
do, to add into your little one's room to make it easier. It gives them something to tune into. It's calming. I even know if my own husband is snoring, I can turn on white noise and it just stops. It just stops me listening to the annoying, frustrating, and anxiety producing snoring sound to just a calm, steady sound. And
Mm.
it's so easy to have playing for the duration of your baby's sleep. For
And if
babies under 8 months old, we would recommend having a shh sound that initiates the calming reflex. Other older babies can obviously just have plain white noise, but
if
having a shh track is magic. Absolute
if you've
magic.
got other children, so for
Oh, yeah.
instance, my little one goes to sleep as well at 7. My older two are 8:30. So having the white noise in the youngest child's room, who's going to bed first, is a really good way of helping to eliminate that FOMO.
Block out.
She can't hear that the others are what they're up to in the rest of the house. You yell at them to be quiet, of course, but it's just so good to help block out the household noises and the neighbor's dog
Yeah.
barking across the street and any of it, and the neighbor's kids playing outside. And
Yeah.
we just can't recommend white noise highly enough. So much so that we have our own white noise albums across all of the streaming platforms, which have everything from this shush sound Amanda's talking about to river noise and beach sound and brown noise and white noise and mountain
All of the
river.
sounds.
So go
Yeah.
and check those out if you're in need of some white noise.
And even for adults, we recommend it for adults as well.
Yes.
Anyone who asks me about adult sleep, the first thing I tell them is just put some white noise on. It doesn't
And
have to be
start
white
from
noise.
there.
It can
Yeah.
be brown noise or pink noise, something that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can
A
listen to
rhythmic
without
sound.
it being annoying. You will know it's not annoying.
It's like rain
So,
on the roof, those beautiful,
yeah.
soothing sounds. So your little one's sleep environment is really crucial to the success of bedtime. And that's something so easy. Like you can do that right now. You can start
Yeah.
implementing some of those things, and it's only going to make a positive difference to their bedtime. It's not going to adversely affect it.
So I think just
That's right.
quickly to sum up the sleep environment, if you think about a hotel room, it's dark, there's blackout blinds, there's often unknowingly white noise playing because there is actually the sound of the
Air
air
conditioning.
conditioning going.
All the
And
circulated air.
yeah, and lights. They've often, even now, I've noticed that in hotels they'll even have like
Dimmers?
they don't have the alarm clock lights anymore,
Oh,
or they will
yes.
be red, or they'll turn them off. So just a completely dark. So if we look at, say, the lights and things, they're gone now. And that's what we're talking about, making sure that there's no stimulating lights, mobiles, noises, and making that room nice and dark. And it is just conducive to sleep.
So moving on then to reason number 5, and this is our last reason for today, that your little one is fighting bedtime. And here we're going to specifically talk about toddlers, because this is where we do see a lot of bedtime battles. And the reason is quite simply that your toddler thinks it's hilarious to do this at bedtime. And this will have started for maybe one of the reasons that we've discussed. So it could have been that for a few days your toddler was undertired, or maybe they were overtired, or for a period of time the sleep environment has been too stimulating or not conducive to sleep. So now your toddler is used to this being what happens at bedtime. So whatever the original reason was, this is now their bedtime routine. And of course they're going to love it. They love the attention.
Love it.
Even if you're growling at them, they still love any kind of attention.
It's still attention, right?
Yeah.
Fluff around. They ask you questions. They ask for another drink. They ask for another bedtime story.
Mm-hmm.
Another question. They'll get up 10,000 times just to look at what you're doing in the kitchen or in the lounge or whatever. Just to look. They'll continue doing it if you're going to give them attention. So here you're going to need to silently return them to bed. They'll ask for another kiss or 10,000 kisses and cuddles.
Yeah.
Honestly,
so you actually now need to implement a
parenting.
method. Yeah.
Parenting.
They got a
methods.
parent. Yeah. To retrain this bedtime behavior.
Yeah. So silently returning them to their bed and just boring as anything. And I guess with your toddler here, if they're actually, I didn't even mind. I just let them have a drink bottle next to their bed at this point, because at this point, you don't really need to control how much water is going in to them at nighttime. And generally, if they have a drink before bed, it's actually not going to cause them to wet the bed anyway. They'll probably wet the bed anyway if they are a bedwetter. Having that drink isn't going to cause a problem. And I think just letting them have the control here of, if they're in a normal bed, having a little drink bottle next to their bedside table. Obviously, don't let them fill it up 20,000 times, but it just gives them a little bit of control. But otherwise, silently returning them to their bed, saying that you'll maybe check on them in 5 minutes, or that you just need to go to the bathroom and that you'll check on them in 5 minutes. And then after that, I just need to go and wash my hands. I'll check on you in 5 minutes. And I just need to go and have a shower. I'll come back and check on you. So you can implement this sort of method to be able to just keep on checking and saying that you will return. And then in the morning, when they have finally gone to sleep, at one point you would have noticed they've gone to sleep. In the morning, make a massive deal about it, that they have gone to sleep by themselves and that you checked on them, and so that they know that you returned at that point, that you checked on them and that they were beautifully asleep. It's like they've cured cancer, honestly, because they will love it.
But the goal, obviously, is to give them nothing. So like Amanda said, you're silently taking them back to their bed. You're not engaging with them. If
not
they're wanting
answering
you,
why ducks have arms and
don't have arms. If they, Max asked me one time, do fish laugh? I was like, why are you thinking about these things at bedtime, you weird child? But
don't answer the question.
Don't answer it. Yeah, don't answer it. Just take them back to bed. And Amanda said, if they need you, if they keep needing you, the goal is to get them to stay in their room and stay in their beds. So promising that you're going to keep coming back and checking on them means that they're going to stay, hopefully they're going to stay in their room waiting for you to do that. So it just straight away alleviates that step of them coming out. So you're all sort of one step closer to them falling asleep themselves in their bed. This is going to take a while, and you'll have to take them back to their room about 25,000 times the first few nights, because they're like, what is this? Why aren't you giving in to my demands?
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah, you really have to stick it out, because otherwise this is going to become the new normal, and your toddler's going to continue to do this because they're getting something.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also this is another place where parents think, oh, maybe, or this happens often when they have been moved into a bed too early rather than staying in their cot, or their crib, which sort of confines them a little bit more. But obviously if they're in a bed and they're able to get out,
they're going to get out.
They're going to get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to
Which
get
actually
out.
raises a great point. Keep them in their cot as long as you can.
As long as you
until
can.
It's almost not safe anymore, or until you need it for another baby, which happened in my situation.
It happened in my situation too, but I just put my older one in a porta cot, which was deeper, so she couldn't get out for even longer.
Harder.
Which was actually,
and it's not firm sides, so they can't really scale the bars.
Yeah, but obviously if it is unsafe, and if your toddler is getting out of their crib 25,000 times, then it is time to put them into a bed.
Bite the bullet. In the case of these toddler bedtime battles, the reason for it would originally have been one of the points that we have already discussed. Unfortunately, simply fixing that is not going to resolve the bedtime issue at this point. It will for a younger baby. But in a toddler, they're quick, they're smart, they've learnt that they can manipulate things, and that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah. So good luck.
Godspeed.
It actually helps. It's really helpful to have a little checklist with your toddler if they're old enough to appreciate that kind of thing, like a bedtime checklist. And this immediately alleviates any of the normal reasons that they would get out of bed. So they tick it off. So you've brushed your teeth, you've gone to the toilet, you've had a drink of water, you've had 2 stories, you've got X amount of fluffy toys with you, I've sung you a song, and I've kissed you goodnight. Straight away, there's a whole bunch of reasons that they don't need to get out of bed. They will think of new reasons, but this is a really good place to start. They will think of many reasons. All right, so let's wind up this episode on bedtime battles. So we've discussed that maybe your little one is struggling at bedtime because they have had too much sleep already that day, and they're just not tired enough to go to sleep, or maybe they are too tired because they haven't had enough daytime sleep, or they're in a nap transition, or they've had a really busy day, or bedtime is too late, which is also another pretty common reason. We've talked extensively about what the ideal sleep environment should look like: the dark room, the white noise, nothing stimulating in there. And we would just add to that, not to use a nightlight with your little one unless they are a toddler and have started to develop a fear of the dark. Your babies do not need night lights. That's going to be stimulating and encourage them to look around instead of going to sleep. And we've also discussed some strategies to get your toddler to cooperate at bedtime by silently returning them to bed and then promising to keep checking on them, and then do keep checking on them.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much for listening today as we discussed these bedtime battles. Please check out our other podcasts for tons more sleep advice, and make sure you visit our website at www.littlenones.co. And if you're in any need of help with your baby's bedtime, their naps, or their night sleep, make sure you visit us on our website or download our app from the app stores. And as we've already mentioned, we've also got our fantastic white noise tracks on all of the streaming platforms. All right, talk to you in the next podcast. See you then.
See you later. This is Little Ones, the Sleep Manual Podcast.